Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Loreweek. I'm your host, Lordum, hoping to kind of zip through this so we can get back to the best game ever made. Yes, that's right. We're going to be playing FF6 all day, every day. What? All joking aside, I do have like 2 more potential streams planned for FF6 in the future. But, you know how that is. Let's see. Random news. Random news. Where's my random news? Where is my random news? What in the world? There's my random news. Let's see here. Okay, honestly, I should probably start with this. We're going to pause the music here and take a moment of silence because we've had 3 deaths this last week, which is just horrible. And I didn't even write down the name of the other woman. I'm sorry. Hang on. Russie Taylor. Which I'm probably pronouncing wrong. Russie Taylor, Jeff Robinson, and Rutger Hauer all died within the last week, which is awful. So a quick moment of silence. The Rutger Hauer and Russie Taylor are obviously rather along in their years, both in their 70s. So that's not exactly a huge surprise, but it still sucks. But Jeff Robinson that's just awful. I don't know what the details are, and because they've mentioned they want to keep the details on the mum, I have not looked into details. So yeah, that's an awesome way to start the week. Don't worry, I've got plenty of other horrible news for you, too, to start this week. It's okay, there's 0 good news I have this week. That's a good thing, right? 0. God, good morning, everyone. Who we got here today? Loner, Cloud of the Stars, Andre, Juanta, Platty, Hazardous, Micromano, Aethel, Deadshot, Takoida, Von Bacon Eater, Tokyo, and Mike. What's up, everyone? So let's just go down the list. I guess this actually isn't bad news per se, but Doom 1, Doom 2, and Doom 3 just got a re-release on basically everything. Like they've been on PC for a while, but you can get them now on the Xbox, on the PS4, and on the Switch. So that's a thing. Everyone is probably already aware of the meme because it spiraled out of control rapidly, that you had to log into the Bethesda account to access the Doom game. Now, Bethesda has since gone forward saying that this is a mistake, that this was supposed to be an optional thing you could do and not a mandatory thing to play the game. I don't believe them. Like, I hate to flat out call them liars, but I think they're flat out lying there. I think that this was them pushing the envelope and seeing how far they could push it, and the feedback was so fast and so negative that they were like, we'll patch it. We'll patch it and make it optional. I'm not saying it's completely impossible that it really was a mistake. I just think it's more likely that this was a deliberate attempt to see what people would think of online DRM for Doom. Can I just say really quick, online DRM could go to hell. Did it actually get patched? No, Takoida. It has yet to be patched. That's the other reason I think that it's a lie, because I'm pretty sure that kind of a thing, if it was a mistake, would be pretty easy to patch. But if it's something that was never intended to be, as in other words, if it was a deliberate thing, patching in a change to remove the requirement would take more time and effort, which it has. So yeah, exactly. Trying to think of a solution delay. That's what I'm thinking here. We'll see. Whatever. Way to go, Bethesda. You're still dumb. Arc Systems. So this is actually funny to me. One of my viewers posted to me. I forget I think it's Kill la Kill. Is a game that it recently got released on PC or something like that. And there were some issues with it. And they also said, make sure you don't, stream it or else we might have issues. And then Bio was like, hey, I'm Bio. Is it coming out on Switch, Chocolate Rock? Because I will buy the hell out of that on the Switch. Hi, Tazara. Anyways, yes, Dakota, that's the one. So I mentioned this because some of you, I imagine most of you don't actually remember this, but once upon a time, Atlas was on my forbidden list. Now, basically, just to be nice, and for no other reason, I went ahead and removed it from the forbidden list. What you probably are not aware of is that there was another company that was on the exact same forbidden list, and that was Arc Systems, or ArcSys, for the same basic reason. And when I removed Atlas, I removed ArcSys too. And now ArcSys is doing this crap again, and it's just like, really, guys? Anyways, thank you very much. For the sub, maybe, Bio? I don't know. Is that a real sub? Like, I gotta go by notifications, man. I'm trusting you guys. I think. Hang on, actually, I do have my most recent things. Yep. No, that's a straight donation that Bio went to Civilization 2. So I don't have a sub from you recently, Bio. So that might be a real sub. In fact, the last sub I have from you, Bio, is not even on this list, so it's at least a couple months ago. And by a couple months, I mean a couple weeks. Now, Hideyori, that's definitely a real sub. Because Hideyori's awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and say thank you very much, Bio. And thank you very, very much, Hideyori. Much appreciate the support, both of you. Thank you. So, if you know what you'd like to put those subs towards, just let me know. I know, right, Aethel? This is kind of good news. This is the closest thing to good news I have. A section of University Avenue over in New York is going to be renamed Stanley Way. It's the section where Stanley actually used to live back in the day. Now, I say it's going to be. I can't imagine it's not, but oh my god, the nomination for it has passed with 100%, like unanimously. The only thing it's waiting on is the mayor to sign it in. I imagine the mayor's going to sign it in. I don't think that's a particularly hard call. You know what I mean? Yeah, apparently hazardous. Thank you very much, Blue Wolf Alex. Much obliged, as always. No, I don't think I'm going to talk about that loner, because, as weird as this may sound, I feel like that's still an in-progress issue. Legend, Dragoon. Thank you again, Blue Wolf Alex. But I haven't heard from Bio or from Hideyori. I don't know, Hazardous. I couldn't even tell you who the president is right now. That's not true. I couldn't tell you who the vice president is. Or the Secretary of State. You know, someone who actually has a real job. Yeah, but you haven't put your sub towards anything, Bio, so now we're going to have to stab you. I'm sorry, guys. Everyone, please stab Bio, just real quick. Just like a light stabbing, you know. Maybe give him a donut afterwards to kind of make the pain go away. I guess I could talk about that. So the United Kingdom's Gambling Commission decided provisionally, based on the fact that you can't make money off of it, that surprise mechanics are not legally defined as gambling. Which is, of course, awful. Yeah, I have, Mukul. But there are already groups still trying to move in a different direction on that one. And it's still something that's still in committee, last I checked, which admittedly I haven't seen. And it's also... Let me rewind a second here. The United States defines gambling by a gradient. I don't actually know how Britain does this. So forgive me for my ignorance on this one. But the United States, and I've talked about this before. No, Bio, that's not true. Don't lie. Guys, we have to stab Bio again. Stab. There we go. Okay. So, Bio, you donated $5. And that $5 was put towards Civ 2. This is your subscription, which is a separate donation, effectively. Now, if you also want to put this towards Civ 2, that's acceptable. But you need to tell me that, because I have nothing notifying me of that otherwise. In the United States, it's a gradient, and basically, and I've described this several times before, the closer you are to the act of gambling, the less legal it is really what it boils down to. The analogy I like to use is slot machines. If you are doing a slot machine, that is the most illegal form of gambling, right? And so that is something that so that's why that's only allowed in very specific areas in the states. Vegas being the big one. And yet, if you go to, I'll use a direct example, Texas, you can go to a bingo club and play bingo and win money, even though that is still gambling. Now, it's a form of gambling that involves a little bit of skill and a little bit of paying attention, and there's other things involved. But the point is, bingo is still gambling, but it's allowed because it's less gambling, right? Same thing with poker tournaments. You get the idea. There's a gradient there. Now, so from what I understand from the British proclamation, they're still looking into this, and they've decided, even though this doesn't qualify legally as straight gambling by British definitions, or UK definitions, what do you want to put it there, the idea is that they're going to continue looking into this and possibly legislate it anyways, either in a different direction or with a new law or whatever. Now, all of this is still completely in the air. That's why I don't even want to comment on this yet, because this is all just a big who knows at the moment. So, we'll see. Put bluntly, I don't think the fact that the UK said it's not gambling means anything, because of the way they defined it as what I like to call hard gambling. Chunk. That's just my take, though. Good morning, Bregwin. You still haven't answered me, Bio. I just want to tell you that. Keep stabbing Bio, guys. Just keep stabbing him. You're funny, Alex. Although, funnily enough, that kind of gambling is illegal for basically reasons completely unrelated to the gambling side of the problem. So, we'll see. Knife-proof armor. Nope. Keep stabbing him, guys. Keep stabbing him. So how many of you guys like Mega Man X? Like, I love Mega Man X. In fact, I love Mega Man X so much that I'm going to change this awesome music to even better music. What? I'm actually very curious how an IDC would go for the Mega Man X series. Like, Mega Man X1 is the one I remember most fondly. I'm actually very curious how the rest would line up. Like, I really am. So, we're finally getting a new Mega Man X game. Thank God. We all bought the Mega Man X collection. Well, several people bought the Mega Man X collection. It sold well. Capcom has been really big on revitalizing their franchises. It's awesome. Yes, we're finally getting a new Mega... It's a mobile. It's a mobile game. The longer... The longer that I do this show, the less tolerant I feel of mobile gaming. It's just weird. Like, I've tried so hard to be tolerant and understanding and be like, mobile gaming isn't necessarily a bad thing. There's probably such a thing as good mobile games. And it's just getting harder and harder to maintain that attitude in the face of reality. So that being said, it's this game called Mega Man... this is a little loud. Let's turn that down a bit. It's this game called Mega Man X Dive, spelled capital D, lowercase I, capital V...
They all do.
Capital Venters. Damn it, Venters. Why do you have to be so capital? It's not cool. I mean, I'm totally in favor of that, Venters. So Venters just put money towards... Actually, we'll do Earthbound. How's that sound, Bio? How about an IDC for Earthbound? Does that sound good? towards a Mega Man X IDC. Hang on, I gotta spell. Bio's name is really hard to spell out here. There we go, got it. Oh, so thank you very, very much, Venters. Much obliged, as always. Thank you so much for the support. Then I would have to, Baron. I would have no choice. Even as the knives slowly stab into my soul, I would be forced to play the garbage game. I've played mobile games on stream before, usually ripping them to shreds. Anyways, capital D, lowercase I, capital V, capital E. Dive. It's spelled the stupidest way possible. It's going to be free to play, of course. It's going to have 3D elements. And it's going to have all the elements expected of a Mega Man series, which includes jumping, climbing, dashing, shooting, and bosses. Because apparently that's all a Mega Man game is. The story of this game is set in a computer world known as the Deep Log, where the game data of the Mega Man X series is stored. The Deep Log is having an abnormal state as Mavericks start to destroy the computer world, turning it to chaos and calling for the player to repair it. So what happens is you play as X, Zero, and Axel, and you pop in to basically fight enemies from the previous Mega Man X games as like missions, basically like a mission kind of a thing. It looks terrible. Like, I don't want to sound too negative, but it looks terrible. And I have a question for you. How many of you guys have played any kind of precision platformer on the phone? I can raise my hand on this one. Because, I don't know about you guys, but being like trying to do very precision platforming with no buttons, with a smooth screen, is, it's not fun. In fact, it's awful. I know what you're thinking, but wait! They might have controller support. Actually, they have talked about there might be controller support. But I want you to just take a moment and picture hooking up this to this so you could play a video... Anyways, moving on. What else I got for random news? Where's my other random news here? Oh, yeah. So how many of you guys saw the Cats trailer? If you don't know what I'm talking about, and I mean this sincerely, here, let's go to YouTube right now. Cats trailer. There it is. Top result. Cats trailer number 1, 2019 movie clips. I'm not going to play it because I've had enough issues with the trailers this week. Just go do that at some point. It's about 2 minutes long. Won't take you long. The thumbnail is probably sufficient, if we're being honest. Because, for those of you not aware, and I wouldn't blame you because this isn't super well known, Cats is a long-standing musical. In fact, actually, when did this come out? Hang on. I know it's Andrew Lloyd Webber. Okay, 1981 is when this came out. It's considered one of the better musicals out there as far as, you know, theater and play. And so quite a few people enjoy Andrew Lloyd Webber's work. I do too. You know, Andrew Lloyd Webber's good stuff. I have seen Cats. You know, I have actually... This is the wrong song. So yeah, I've seen the musical. It's actually a decent musical. It's kind of weird, kind of trippy, but, you know, it's the intent. And they've decided to make a movie out of it, which, Okay, yeah, I'm down with that. Making a movie based on a musical, pretty normal. And then they decided to go in that direction with it. Now, my favorite thing to think about here, other than say hello Rax and hello Larian, I want you to think for a moment about many people, how many people had to greenlight that film, and the specific attempt at the effects that they're doing for that film. Like, I want you to picture for a moment how many people, dozens, if not into the hundred range of people, who had to be like, yep, and who had to design it, who had to process it, who had to set up the physical makeup, who had to do the CGI additions to the makeup. They had to, someone had to stamp that, someone had to green like that. Just think about how many people made that happen. And so, anyways, moving on. Speaking of stupid, I'm going to be pronouncing this wrong. Chemicles, Schwartz, Kreiner, and Donald Smith has officially and formally filed a lawsuit against Nintendo. Now, the only reason I'm even mentioning this is because someone actually asked me about this. Let's call this what this is. This is a money grab. Now, CSK&D has filed this lawsuit specifically to combat drift. Why am I still on this playlist? Nobody likes Mega Man music, right? Here, the only good thing about Mega Man X7. The soundtrack. This is for the so-called Switch Joy-Con drift issue, which is something that is actually an issue. Let's be clear. And is also something that Nintendo has basically been like, yeah, okay, we'll fix it. And they've even offered to fix it for free. In fact, I decided to look into this a little bit just in case I have issues, because I use the Switch all the time, obviously. I have not had any drift issues, but it is possible here in the States to go ahead and get a free replacement. There's a little bit of a process you have to go through, but you basically mail them the things and a little bit of a barcode thing, and they're like, here, clunk, and they'll mail you back either new or different Joy-Cons fixing the issue. This is all basically free of charge, by the way. I say basically because, you still have to deal with the issue. I only point this out because the law firm which is suing them is a law firm here in the States. So, let's go ahead and rewind another second. Yeah, I saw that, Plutonia. That was a couple weeks ago, but I did see that. Okay, hang on. Blue Wolf Alex doesn't like this music. I gotta find other Mega Man music he'll like. Let's go with Mega Man X3? Nah, screw it. Screw it. The only music Blue Wolf Alex likes is this music. Flashman? I do like Flashman's song. I don't actually have the MMX4 intro here. And I don't have Ace Attorney music. Losing my train of thought. This lawsuit is specifically about the drift issue. The complaint is being filed. The complaint alleges the joysticks will automatically register movement when the joystick is not being controlled and interfere with gameplay. Now, I point that out because they are suing Nintendo over a complaint that has already been acknowledged and is already being fixed. Now, I don't know how valid that is, but I want to point something very important out here, because I decided to look into this, and you can actually see the official complaint, because when you're doing a lawsuit, you have to make that stuff public, at least here in the States. And if you go ahead and look it up, you will find the full complaint here. It's 30 pages long, because of course it is. But I did actually bother to peruse this after a bit. And having perused this, I was like, huh, okay. So they have decided to utilize one person who is associated with the law firm as their key person. the person they're using as their example. I forget the proper term for that, forgive me. And that's, basically the only real evidence they have other than the mechanical side of things. And otherwise, it's just the law firm itself positing the lawsuit. Now, if you don't understand the substantial significance of that, they are, I said this already, this is a money grab. They've actually said they are doing this on behalf of purchasers of Switches and Joy-Cons. But that's basically a lie? Because they're not actually doing this. Yeah, sure, here you go. Anyone wants to read it, go for it. It's basically a lie because no actual owners of Joy-Cons are going to really be involved in this. Now, they are going to pay. So if you look at the actual things they require, let's go ahead and go down the list here. So we've got, they want a proposed notice to be paid by Nintendo. They want to prevent Nintendo from, and I quote, unlawful, deceptive, fraudulent, and unfair business practices. They want to have injunctive relief in the form of a recall or free replacement program, which has happened. They want equitable relief in the form of buyback of the devices. Okay, sure. They want costs, restitutions, damages, punitive damages, penalties, and disgorgement. So in other words, the law firm wants money, 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 and money, respectively. They also want the defendant, that'd be Nintendo, sorry, to pay pre- and post-judgment interest on any amounts awarded. That's basically just a way to make sure that they pay the amount without regards to... There's a whole mess with that. I don't actually want to cover that. Basically, some companies will say, oh, I'll go ahead and pay this money rather than this money. So they're trying to make sure they pay this money, the more amount. They also want to pay for all the attorney's fees. So in other words, they want to do this lawsuit basically for free. And finally, any other relief as may be appropriate. And you always put that at the end of a lawsuit because you never know. The judge might give you another $10,000 just for the hell of it. I mean, this is the United States hazardous. Absolutely, it could pass. Remember, this is corporate, that is to say civil court, which just operates differently from criminal court. This is Pennsylvania, I do believe, Loner, but I don't know the specific court. Give me a second. It should say at the top. Here we go. The District Court for the Western District of Washington at Seattle. My bad. So it's actually Seattle where this is being dealt with. That makes sense because, Nintendo of America is based in Seattle. In Washington, excuse me, in Richmond. Why not sue EA or Activision? Less likely to make money out of it. Yeah, so this is a money grab. Puh, is my response to that. Moving on. I'm not necessarily saying I'm on Nintendo's side here, to be clear. I'm just saying that that's a money grab and deserves to be spit out. So is that it? Yep, that's it for random news. So let's go ahead and switch over to the only... Speaking of financial news... Speaking of which... Alright, so I want to phrase this in a pretty specific way, so hear me out for a second, guys. So some of you may be aware that I follow financial news pretty regularly, and I was surprised that in the last week I had no less than 3 separate sites reporting, excuse me, two separate sites reporting on 3 separate investment firms, all of whom are pushing for Disney to buy Activision Blizzard. Or Acti-Blizzard, as I summarized it. Now, I actually bothered to look into this and dig into this, because if this happens, this is going to be an interesting change to the market. But I just want to know your guys' just knee-jerk reaction to that. Disney buys Activision Blizzard. Go. It's a shame Hoothor's not here. I'd be curious of his thoughts. No, she's not royalty, Bragwin. She's an elected official. No, oh god, I can't think of his name all of a sudden. Varian's kid would be the Disney princess. I can't think of his name. God, you can tell that I've just just pieced out of Warcraft lately. I can't even think of the main character. Anduin. Anduin would be a Disney princess. I mean, think about it. He's even got dead parents. Both of them. One of them died protecting him. He's got the hair for it? Yeah, yep. Tragic backstory. Struggling to be a good person despite having special powers. Think about it. Having to rely on other people, including a big, strong man, Greymane, in order to take care of him. He's a frickin' Disney princess. Anyways. For real, though. So let's go ahead and talk about this. For those of you not aware, Disney owns a colossal amount of things. What's really strange, though, is you might be thinking, why the hell does Disney get away with avoiding monopoly laws? Because despite everything, despite what you might think, anti-monopoly laws are actually pretty strict here in the States. All it takes is someone, anyone, to decide to raise the issue legally, and at that point it becomes a cluster, right? So why has no one raised this issue with Disney? And I'll actually go ahead and answer the answer for you. It's because Disney goes out of their way to not have too many things in the same pot. Now, the only thing they're getting close to on that is movies. And there are actually some sharks circling the waters, metaphorically speaking, about the fact that Disney is getting too monopolized when it comes to filmmaking. But they have a little bit of real estate, they have a little bit of park, they have a little bit of television, they have a lot of movies. They have investment firms, they have fingers in a lot of pies. That's the main way Disney avoids monopoly concerns. Now I bring this up because they don't really have any fingers in the video game industry. Not really. If you actually look at all the things Disney owns, and I've done this before, in fact I've done this on camera, they basically don't own any video game things. Not really. Not anything substantial. So that's point number one. They could buy into an existing company or start their own if they wanted to, and that would be that would be okay, basically. That would be allowed. Now, the catch there, some of you may not be aware of this, when they decided to procure exactly hazardous, it's a technically, which whatever. And yes, Huthor, I was just wondering if you were going to be here for this. Quick, Huthor, what's your knee-jerk reaction to Disney, if Disney bought Activision Blizzard? So, I don't think they have the finger in the pharmaceutical industry. I could be wrong about that. Disney does own Kingdom Hearts, but Disney does not own a video game development thing, right? Like, they've got Disney Interactive, and they've got, one other thing, and both of those are basically non-entities, especially since they keep canceling their own things. So they don't own a development studio. They don't own a publisher. Does it make sense? They do own the rights to quite a few video game IPs, and the licensing rights to them. Yeah, I'm actually pretty surprised Disney Interactive hasn't been canned yet, and I mean that sincerely, because holy crap, they just keep chopping them off at the knees. Anyways, getting back to my point. So, legally speaking, they'd probably be okay buying into one big publisher. When they procured Lucasfilm, that was about a $4 billion purchase, which probably sounds like a lot, and that's because that is a lot of money. I could take care of every single person in my chat and my entire extended family on all three sides for the rest of our lives on $4 billion. Yeah, this is going to be closer to a $37 billion procurement, assuming they do decide to fully own Activision Blizzard. Now, they might not do that. There's actually other ways to do that. They don't have to spend the total amount that the company's worth. They could just get a controlling interest in it. But just a controlling interest would still be in the billions range, greater than 4. So, this is a pretty big investment if they decide to go into this. Now, you might be wondering why so many people are saying this at the same time. Just to give a simplistic perspective on this, right now Activision Blizzard stock is kind of tanking, and is the worst it's been in quite a while. Now, I'm not saying that to say, oh my god, Activision Blizzard's dying. I'm saying it because quite a few investment firms have been eyeballing Activision Blizzard for months now in order to try and, buy into it. Now, there's a couple other factors here. and I want to cover one thing last in particular. But I found it amusing that so many different sites were all pushing for this all at the same time. Now, it is probably worth noting that anytime a very large investment deal happens, it's not like you and I do money, right? If I wanted to buy Micromano right now, and let's say hear me out. Let's say Micromano is worth $100. Then what I would do is I either pull up my card or write a check, and the money from my account would go to whoever his ownership account is, and then the money would be transferred, and then we'd be good, right? Bam. Thing is, that's not how finances work at the higher levels, because there's no bank out there with 37 billion in it, right? That's not how that works. There are banks that have into the millions range, but that kind of investment is all in futures, stocks, and I don't remember all the words, to be completely honest. There's like 7 or 8 different things that all have value attached to them, which then trade hands, okay? Now, you're probably wondering why I'm even telling you about this. Because some of those, hundreds of millions of dollars in various items are starting to shuffle hands right now. Usually when now this could mean nothing, to be clear, but usually when that happens, it means a company is doing the prep work necessary to get all their assets lined up to then transfer these assets over here in order to procure ownership of a company. That's how that works. It's one of the it's actually a weirdness because it's like war. Hear me out. Unless you are, if assuming you're fighting an opponent of equal capacity, equal technological ability, whatever, you're going to see the army coming. Not just because you're going to see the dust on the horizon, but you're going to see they're mobilizing. You're going to see that they're calling in the troops. You're going to see that they're actually setting the railroads up and making sure that the planes are stocked or making sure that the boats are fueled, right? Mobilization is something that is visible. This was a big problem with World War I, actually. It's the same thing economically. When you mobilize to go to war economically, it's a very visible thing. Everyone notices it. Now, so something is happening right now, and I don't know what specifically. I'm trying to think. I mentioned that, and I mentioned that. So let's pause for a second before I mention the last thing. I already asked what your guys' thoughts were, and a bunch of people gave me different thoughts. This is going to sound weird, but how much faith do you have that Activision Blizzard will be a good company under Disney ownership? Whether or not you think it's a good company now, that's irrelevant. Now, I mention this because I know several people personally, I've talked to a few of my friends on this one, who all thought that, yeah, there's a pretty good chance that it'll be a good company under Disney. And I know what you're thinking. Why? Because of the way Disney usually treats its partners. We did get the MCU out of Disney, after all, for example. I suppose it depends on your opinion of Star Wars as well, because some people really dislike what Disney has been doing with Star Wars, and some people really like what Disney... And by the way, can we just please leave The Last Jedi out of this? I don't even want to hear it. I really don't. Good or bad, I'm sick and tired of hearing that movie. But a lot, speaking, Rebels is something I've been going through recently. I imagine plenty of people really hate Rebels because I've heard a lot of negativity about it, and plenty of people really love Rebels as well. So I get that a lot of people are going to be divisive on that because of how they've been dealing with Star Wars. What's a Brody quest? Anyways. I do too, Anthony. Especially since the more time goes on, the more we learn about how much Solo was sabotaged. I'm just going to say it that way. There's no way that wasn't deliberate. That's fair, Hazardous. I should have rephrased it. I agree. I think Activision Blizzard. I firmly think Activision Blizzard would be a better company under Disney than it is right now, and I do mean that. Whether that's saying much or not, that's up to you. But whatever. So here's the final niggle. I mentioned that there are some movements, some mobilization going on economically. I also mentioned that there's nothing confirmed here. So whether Disney's actually making a play on Activision Blizzard is unknown. Pure rumor, right? Tencent is buying larger shares of Blizzard Activision right now. They are actively trying to gain a controlling interest in Activision Blizzard right now. That's not rumor. That's already in process. So, bonus question. Which would you rather? Disney or Tencent? Yeah. You could probably see why I saved this one for last. Because not a lot of sites are reporting on what Tencent's doing right now. And yeah, several people have mentioned NetEase. NetEase has not actively started buying in. There's a pretty good chance NetEase will start buying in, especially since Tencent has already started buying in. We'll see. I am actually legitimately concerned, and I'll just say that bluntly. I mean, God, just Tencent. Oh my God, that would just be awful. I'm sorry. I'm not sure I could come up with a worse, large-scale company to take over Activision Blizzard than Tencent. Yeah, we'll see. I'm going to be watching this. I'm going to be watching this closely. And we'll see what happens. Oh yeah, by the way, now's a pretty good time to buy Activision Blizzard stock if you're interested, if you happen to be someone who does that. It's pretty low priced right now, relatively speaking. Yay. What has Tencent done? Oh Jesus, hang on, let me spend an hour. Tencent is an official Chinese company. Now, I don't know if you understand what that means, so forgive me. That means that they are officially allowed and officially aligned with the Chinese government. So the Chinese government has oversight and ownership over Tencent, and Tencent does state contracts. And that's probably all I really need to say, really. Oh, yes, they are also one of the... Well, that's not true anymore. They were one of the first state-backed companies that was allowed to do foreign business. Tencent is in charge of some of the censorship, the media censorship that goes on in China. Like, they're actually... That's one of their jobs. And yes, Tencent is also one of the biggest backers behind the Epic Store. Financially, I mean. If you've ever played Fortnite, congratulations, you're playing a Tencent game. No offense to Fortnite, no offense to Fortnite players. There was a kid, was it a British kid, I think? 15-year-old? Won a couple $1 million in Fortnite. That's cool, I guess. What do you want to bet he's going to, lose all that money within a year because he's 15? No, I've said this before and I've said this again. I have nothing against the game Fortnite. What I don't like is everything else about Fortnite. I don't like the money it brings in. I don't like the influence it has on the markets, plural. And I don't like how much it affects media perception as well as cultural drift as far as video games go. The game itself, I mean, I've never played it, so I can't comment on it. Anyways, like I said, I didn't really have anything good to talk about today. Bio has decided to ask a random question. What Marvel movies are you looking forward to in the upcoming years? I guess Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is the first one that occurs to me. Even though it's not in the, the next phase of stuff, even though they're trying to phase out phases. But none of the Phase 4 stuff announced at Comic-Con that was a film really interests me all that much, if I'm being completely honest. I'll probably see them. I'm not excited about any of it. Now, shows, well, that's a totally different matter. I'm actually pretty interested in, like, most of those shows. God, Mind Blast, really? Also, I feel you, Tessie. Anyways, that's actually all I got for this week. It's part of the new shorter Loreweeks thing, so let's go ahead and chop this off.